I know there have been some problems, and it, of course, has me worried. And I think that it has been enchanting to hear my colleagues the last few hours and their presentations. So I commend you for an excellent conference. As she said, I'm the Dean Emerita, the former Dean of the School of Nursing and Health Sciences at Aspen University. So I'm currently the Graduate Partnership Liaison, and I also teach at Mary Baldwin University in Virginia. I think we had a previous speaker from Virginia. And I'm a forensic mental health nurse, and I work with, as she said, victims of trauma and violence, and a parish nurse. So the agenda today will be to talk about ethics, empathy, professionalism, civil behavior, and advocacy. But I do want to give a land acknowledgement that what we call America was originally settled by indigenous people, as were many of your countries, and that we're woven together in a beautiful fabric of diverse people. And that gives us not only power, that gives us spirit. So our objectives are that the participants are going to be able to identify some ethical standards, which were just published, and I'll share with you, to discuss some deviations from those ethical standards, and think about maybe how wherever it is that you work and live, you might make some changes to align your work with those standards. So let's start with professional ethics. I'm very fortunate. I put this abstract in, 6 months ago, but I'm fortunate that the American Nurses Association just published their code of ethics, and I was able to purchase a copy of it to share with you today. So here are the brand new 2025 Nursing Code of Ethics. The first principle is that the nurse practices with compassion and respect for the inherent dignity, worth, and unique attributes of every person. Back to the previous slide, we're all woven together. We have different skin tones. We have different countries we come from. We have different experiences, but we all have inherent dignity. Number two, the nurse's primary commitment is to the recipient of nursing care. And we tend to think, at least when we're first getting our licenses, of the individual in front of us. But that individual has a family and is part of a group, is part of a community, is part of a population. We need to have respect for the total commitment to all of those entities. And then number three, the nurse establishes a trusting relationship. We are still known as the most trusted profession, and I hope that continues because I want to be part of it, and I'm sure you do too. And we advocate for the rights, health, and safety of recipients of nursing care. When I advocate, I always put RN after my name because I think maybe legislators are more respectful of the fact that I am a registered nurse and I speak for my patients, my community, my populations. Number four, the nurses have authority over nursing practice. And if we don't, we should. So you need to advocate for that. And then what I tell my students over and over again is that they are responsible and accountable for their practice. So when they want to cut corners, they want, me to slide their grades. I'm like, no, number four, you're responsible and accountable for your practice. Should be consistent with the obligations to promote health, prevent illness, and provide optimal care. Number five, the nurse has moral duties to self. Get sleep, folks. Eat well. Take care of yourself. You owe it to yourself because you're a person of inherent dignity and worth. And if you don't feel that way, hear it from me. You are a person of dignity and worth. And you should include an expectation that when you go to work, it's a safe place for you, that'll foster your flourishing, your ability to work, and to have self-respect and a sense of integrity and professional competence. So number six is that nurses, through both individual and collective effort, will establish, maintain, and improve the ethical environment, which is what I'm talking about today, of their work setting, and that will affect nursing care. So the patients are affected by our behaviors and the well-being of nurses. How can a patient heal in a place where nurses are feeling run down, burned out, savage against each other? there's no healing taking place. They have to be able to be in a place of healing. Number 7, the nurses advance the profession, which is what we're doing today in the last couple days through different approaches, such as knowledge development. That's what this is. Talking about professional standards. That's what I'm talking about. And the generation of policies for nursing health and social concerns, which are some future slides I'm going to have. Nurses build collaborative relationships, and that's what we're doing here. Lisa Wallace and I have exchanged all kinds of things because we tend to be on the same podia, So hopefully we'll be emailing each other or connecting on LinkedIn and building those collaborative relationships and networking with other nurses in healthcare and also with non-healthcare disciplines, with members of the clergy in our areas, with educators in our areas, educating the schools. I thought Lisa did a really good job of saying we need to be connected to those schools for those kids and the public, as several of the previous people were talking about. We've got a public duty to achieve greater ends. And number 9, nurses and their professional organizations work to enact and resource the practices, policies, and legislation that lead to social justice. So we get that equity that the previous midwife was talking about and eliminate those health inequities and facilitate human flourishing. And the last but not least is that through organizations and associations to which we belong, we participate in, I love this, a global nursing and health community. We are all connected no matter where you're living. I've heard India, I've heard, Virginia, I've heard Kentucky, I've heard all kinds of different places. We are connected through the global nursing community. Why? Because we should be promoting human and environmental health, well-being, and flourishing. So what are some of the violations that we see? And I like this Phobian article, and I'll give you the references later, or I could send them to you. But Phobian found that these were common violations. Patient privacy. Actually, a previous speaker talked about your personal bias. And then it's now built into AI. That was a surprise, where Black people are supposedly less likely to get care with the AI bias brought in. Delegated inappropriately, where you should really be caring for that person, but you delegated it to someone else. Failure to promote a safe healthcare environment, lack of informed consent, lack of your own professional growth. Not talking to anybody here because you're all here to grow professionally. Avoiding action when you see questionable practices, not accepting that accountability for your actions and judgment, and failure to report a clear impairment of a coworker. Some other deviations that I've seen that weren't in that research study is people being asked to sign off on a report with data that you question. I'm not sure that's really true. Here, sign this fast, right? Asked to promote a procedure that you suspect is just to make money. I've actually challenged some of my providers. Am I doing this because this is going to change my plan of care? Or are you trying to pay off equipment? I'm obviously a difficult patient, Decisions about who to admit. Is it really based on an algorithm for triage? Or, as the previous speaker said, is it based maybe on their skin tone or how they express their pain? Working when tired due to staffing issues. I mean, some of us are pathologically loyal. We stick around when there's very, very serious staffing issues, but that means we're tired, we're overworked, we're burned out, we aren't providing the best care, and we feel heroic because we stuck around, but we're not necessarily heroic because this is not a good working, and it's not an ethical working environment. And then getting paid less for the same work. That's happened to me, and it's annoying, And then cognitive dissonance, when you say, I don't feel comfortable doing it, but you do it anyway. So I can't see the chat, but I'll look at it maybe later, or someone can share it. But maybe in the chat, share some other issues that you personally have seen. What has made, and this is a safe space, I won't share with anybody, but what issues have you seen where your ethics, you saw those 10 principles were challenged that maybe didn't show up in the research, but for the sake of time, I'll carry on. There are consequences for unethical behavior. You can get written up, you can lose your job, there could be a civil suit, and there can be a criminal penalty. You could even lose your license to practice our beloved nursing. So this is my beloved puppy. He has taught me how to sleep. Sleeping is his superpower, but he's very empathetic. He knows when mama needs to sleep. He knows when mama needs to rest, and he will actually put his paw on the laptop and say, "Enough, time to turn it off." So I was thinking when I was proposing this abstract, does the world seem less ethical to you? Does the world seem less empathetic? Has it become more hostile? How can we build empathy? I've been noticing some Facebook entries that say that some countries are teaching empathy in schools, and that's great. And I would say listen more, talk less, try to see the other, whoever the other is, point of view, see the world from their point of view. That builds empathy. And I used to have a bumper sticker on my car that said, "Lord, I wish I could be the person my dog thinks I am." And I do wish my dog thinks I am just so wonderful. And I wish I could be that person. But have empathy. Understand the other person, understand the other person's viewpoint, and then apply your ethics to that. So let's talk for a minute about professional. Again, I can't see your answers, but let's have a quick quiz. Why did the passengers from the Titanic die? Give you a second. Now, I'm not seeing your answers because I've got this full screen, but I'm guessing because I put a big picture of an iceberg in front of you, that some of you are saying the iceberg. Well, I will tell you, there were several ships in the vicinity, and there were lots of icebergs, and those other ships didn't sink. So the answer is not the iceberg. That's the easy answer. Yep, it's the iceberg. No, I mean, it's so easy to say things happen because of external things beyond our control, like icebergs that we don't see. Well, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of things that caused the passengers to die. For one thing, when the ship left, it had the minimum number of lifeboats, but not enough for everyone because they wanted more deck space. So they scrimped on lifeboats. They did not train the officers and crew on how to launch the lifeboats or what to do if there were an emergency. The person who had the key to the binoculars was not on the ship and left them locked in his locker and took the key. So they couldn't get to the binoculars, so they didn't see it until they were right up on it. The ship was actually constructed that you should drive into the iceberg and it would be minimum damage, but instead they veered, and so it slashed open multiple compartments in the Titanic, which actually is what led to the sinking. The crew was unclear as to whether it's women and children first or women and children only. And so many of the little lifeboats were launched half full or even partially full. So there's a lot of reasons why the passengers from the Titanic died, but many of them could have been prevented. So I love this Swiss cheese theory that they have, is that there's a triggering event, but there are things that can intervene along the way. Good staff training. As we talked about, the crew wasn't trained. Having processes in place, policies in place, people knowing what they should do, teamwork and communication, rehearsal, having the proper equipment and facilities. And so if any of those things intervene, harm cannot be caused. And so we can stop that Swiss cheese from having a hole all the way through it. If you ever look at Swiss cheese, it never has a hole all the way through it because there's intervening cheese. We'll put it that way. So let me look at some ethical presumptions that I hope everybody that's listening to can agree with. Hey, messing up is human. To err is human. Most nurses don't get up in the morning and say, "I'm going to hurt patients." They seek to help patients. And without stigma, nurses would seek to provide information to prevent future error, as long as they aren't being punished for providing that. So collaborative transparency is needed to produce a just culture where the nurse can admit, let me say something before it goes all the way through to harm. Therefore, nursing programs need to teach and model a just culture in nursing. I love this picture. This was taken at an Aspen graduation. As you can see, some of us are older than others. Some of us have darker skin tone than others. But you know, we're all united in civil behavior. But what is civil behavior and how do we assert ourselves without being aggressive? Well, when I assert myself, I should determine what I need, get in the right mindset, and I'll have a slide about that in a minute. I'm going to state my need clearly, find a solution, and be open to criticism or a possible no. Aggression is when I seek to hurt the other person. I seek only to get my own way. I seek only to find my own solution. And that can get me dismissed because I'd be disruptive or disrespectful. And honestly, I don't know how a patient can heal in an aggressive environment. So here's how to get in the right mind. If you are excited about a problem and you're anxious, turn that anxiety into passion or excitement about the problem, not the person that you're about to meet with. Decide to be joyful, celebrate the good parts about the job, about nursing, whatever, and small successes rather than everything's a loss. Eat healthy, get exercise, schedule sleep, and create a Zen, if you like, room or a space where you can just relax and get in the right mind. So now you're in the right mind, it's time to advocate. You may be familiar with the Radon Devat, bless her heart, I hope she's doing well. In 2017, she made a medication error, as many people do. She was a relatively new nurse. There were a culture of workarounds where she worked because of technology glitches. Further, a relatively new nurse was precepting on a unit, and there was a medication that really should have been administered by a nurse and anesthetist in interventional radiology. But a frail 75-year-old patient was getting it on the med-surg floor prior to going to IR, and she ended up dying. But it was not her cause of death, interestingly enough. She died of natural causes because she was a frail 75-year-old patient, according to the medical examiner. Initially, the Tennessee Board of Nursing didn't take her license away because they didn't really think it was criminal. But when a criminal case was brought against her, the Tennessee board stepped up and said, we're going to take her license away because then they're going to make the case that, you know what, she can't practice nursing, so she can't do any harm. So why is she going to prison? And as a forensic nurse, that's my thought. And I did write a letter to that extent. Why are we imprisoning nurses for doing what can happen to any nurse under, remember the Swiss cheese? All of those events. Why are we blaming the nurse when there were so many things that led up to it? And this anonymous tip was really trying to improve safety at this hospital, but instead it all went bad. The family didn't even bring civil suit, but the DA, the district attorney, filed criminal charges. So Kentucky, not Tennessee, you heard me right, Kentucky, shout out to Kentucky. I think we had a speaker from Kentucky earlier. I hope she's still on. They passed a law to protect nurses from criminal prosecution. You can still be brought before a jury of your peers, that would be nurses, at the Board of Nursing. But you don't get criminal prosecution for merely professional errors unless there's intent to commit harm. So, if you've decided to change the culture, in Virginia, we want to change the law, so we get the Kentucky law. I'll just tell you that. You need to decide who needs the buy-in. Who are your stakeholders? Whose support do you need? How can you promote that change? And how can you assure that it'll be maintained, that it'll continue? So here are my takeaways. Revisit the new nursing code of ethics frequently. I want you to see the patient as the person your dog sees you as. The patient is honoring you. The patient is respecting you. I want you to see the patient the same way, with dignity and respect. Be the model of a professional nurse. There's a picture of me in my professional nursing uniform. Even if others around you are not modeling it, let you be the model. Assert yourself without aggression. Advocate for yourself, for nursing, and for your patients. So this, I hope, is what we covered in our session. If you need to reach me, it's really easy. ninarn@yahoo.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. And here are my references. Take out your camera and you can quickly take a shot of that. And then I will stop sharing. You can also contact me about it. So were there any questions or comments?